The moment you realize that the person you've trusted all your life, the one you welcomed into your home, the one you called my daughter, has been hiding behind a mask that concealed a betrayal powerful enough to shatter your entire family. That very moment is when your breath catches. Time stands still, and you begin the painful journey of asking yourself, where did I go wrong?
I'm Margaret. My husband, Henry, and I have lived in this house and tended this garden for 45 years, facing joy and sorrow side by side, always leaning on each other like two steadfast oaks. We devoted our lives to raising our two children, our soft-hearted daughter, Emma, and our spirited son, James, teaching them honesty and kindness so they'd never wrong another soul. Our only wish was to see them settled, to hear the laughter of grandchildren echoing through this old house. James was our pride and joy, the apple of our eye. Perhaps we doted on him a little too much. So the day he turned up at our door with that radiant young woman, the one with the dazzling smile and honeyed words, and said, looking us straight in the eyes, "Mom, Dad, I've found the woman of my life, my reason to breathe, my soulmate," Henry and I felt our hearts could burst with happiness. We had never seen our son so alive, so full of joy. From that day on, Lily, our daughter-in-law, became more than just James's wife. She became my third child. I treated her no differently than I did my dear Emma. I shared with her my most secret recipes, the lace tablecloths my late mother had embroidered by hand, even our family's most intimate stories passed down through generations. I trusted her completely, not only as James's partner, but as a strong, steady pillar of our family's future. And yet, amid this picture of perfect happiness, there were moments, fleeting, almost invisible, when I caught something strange in Lily's angelic eyes. It wasn't love I saw there, but a gleam, the kind one gives to a precious object, assessing its worth. The first time I noticed it was when her gaze lingered just a bit too long on Henry's heirloom pocket watch, passed down from his grandfather. That odd, uneasy feeling began to gnaw at me. But I couldn't bring myself to mention it, not to Henry, for fear of worrying him, nor to Emma, who might be caught in an awkward sister-in-law tension. So I scolded myself. "Oh, Margaret, you're just imagining things. You're getting old and suspicious. Don't cloud your son's happiness with nonsense." If only I had known then that this faint whisper of doubt was the first gust of a storm, one that would tear through our lives and expose the truth behind that angelic mask. Weeks passed, and the icy unease I'd felt that Easter morning had nearly faded. Lily was as attentive as ever, fluttering about me, asking, "Mom, do you need anything?" turning my lingering suspicions into pangs of guilt. Then, one Sunday afternoon after coffee in the garden, Henry glanced at his old pocket watch and chuckled. "Goodness, time does fly." I noticed Lily's eyes flick toward the watch again, gleaming just as they had before. This time, she didn't hide her curiosity. "Dad, that watch of yours is gorgeous. It must be worth quite a bit, isn't it?" My kind, soft-hearted husband missed the faint sharpness in her tone. He smiled, holding the watch lovingly in his palm. "Ah, my dear, its value can't be measured in money. It's my grandfather's watch, priceless in sentiment." At that exact word, sentiment, Lily's bright smile faltered just for a heartbeat. A flicker of disappointment crossed her face before she quickly recovered. "Oh, yes, of course. The memories are what matter," she said hastily, changing the subject. But I saw it, that tiny crack in her expression. Henry and James might not have noticed, but I froze where I sat at the kitchen table. The voice in my head that once whispered, "You're overthinking, Margaret," went silent. In its place came a cold, undeniable truth. My instincts had been right all along. Lily's interest in our family heirlooms had nothing to do with affection or admiration. It was about value, pure material value.
I could not forget the shadow of disappointment that had crossed Lily's face. It lingered in my mind like a painful photograph burned into memory. So even though I tried to act as if everything were fine for the sake of James's happiness, I had quietly become a different woman in my own home, a watchful, wounded observer, steadying my daughter-in-law's every word and every gesture as if they might reveal some hidden clue. Over the next few uneasy days, I began to notice something unsettling. As Lily moved about the house, her eyes lingered on things she had never paid attention to before. The old tapestry on the wall, the hand-carved walnut sideboard that had belonged to Henry's grandfather, even the smallest trinkets on the mantelpiece. She would run her fingers across them lightly, examining them with a cool curiosity of an appraiser rather than the affection of a family member. She no longer felt like a young woman settling into her new home, but like a stranger quietly assessing her spoils. One evening, while helping me in the kitchen, she spoke in her usual gentle tone, though she kept her eyes fixed on the saucepan. "Mother Margaret," she began sweetly, "don't you and Dad ever think this house is a bit too big and, well, rather old-fashioned for the two of you? Wouldn't it be nicer to move somewhere more modern, more comfortable? Maybe a cozy little flat?" The ladle froze in my hand. To anyone else, it might have sounded like a harmless question, but to me, it cut far deeper than her earlier curiosity about the watch. This wasn't about a piece of furniture. It was about placing a price tag on the very walls that held 45 years of our marriage, the home where our children grew up, the heart of all our memories. I swallowed hard and forced a smile. "Oh, my dear," I said lightly, "we're happy here. This old house isn't worth much anyway, just bricks and mortar to anyone else." I deliberately downplayed its value, setting a quiet trap, curious to see how she would react, whether that calculating glimmer would return to her eyes. The moment the words "not worth much" left my lips, I watched her closely. Her bright expression faded almost instantly. The cheerful glow on her face stiffened into a strained smile, and for the briefest moment, I saw genuine disappointment there. Then, as if realizing she'd given herself away, she straightened up and tried to recover. "Oh no, Mom, you misunderstood," she said quickly. "I only meant it might be easier for you both. You could sell this place, have a nice bit of money, and really enjoy your retirement." Enjoy our retirement. Those words pierced me like ice, because I finally understood what lay behind them. She wasn't thinking about our comfort.
She was thinking about the money. To her, these walls that witnessed my entire married life weren't sacred. They were property, a profitable asset waiting to be sold. Though our conversation seemed to end there, that night I heard low voices coming from the next room. Lily's tone was no longer soft or sweet. It was sharp, insistent. "Your mother's so old-fashioned. Who lives like this anymore? We'd be doing them a favor. They should really make use of this place." The next morning at breakfast, my son's face was dark and distant. He avoided my eyes and his father's, and I could tell, without a single word, that Lily had spent the night whispering poison into his ear. And that's when it struck me with cruel clarity. My daughter-in-law wasn't just after my home. She was after my son's heart, turning his love into a weapon, using it to claim what she truly wanted: our family, our house, our peace.
The days that followed that poisoned breakfast were filled with an unbearable, icy silence that echoed through our home. My son, my gentle, respectful James, who had never once raised his voice to me, became a stranger under our roof. He hardly spoke, kept his eyes fixed on the floor, and moved about like a man haunted by shame or resentment. Again and again, I looked for moments to be alone with him, to ask what was wrong, to reach whatever remained of his heart. But every time I said, "James, love, can we talk for a minute?" Lily would appear, as if conjured from the air. "Oh, sweetheart," she would coo, "your mom wants to talk, but you're tired, aren't you? I'll speak for you." And just like that, she built a wall of flesh and whispers between a mother and her son. It didn't stop with Henry and me. She began, quite deliberately, to distance James from his sister Emma, my bright, tender-hearted girl. Whenever Emma called, Lily answered with her sugary tone, "James is in the shower," or "He's terribly busy. I'll tell him to ring you later." Days went by, then weeks, and I realized she was isolating him piece by piece, as though our family existed only to be divided. Then, one evening at dinner, amid that suffocating silence, James suddenly set his fork down with a hard, metallic clatter. In a voice I had never heard from him before, cold, sharp, and distant, he said, "Mom, Lily's right. You and Dad are wasting away in this old house. Why are you so stubborn? You're making life harder for everyone." The bread froze in Henry's hand, and I couldn't stop the tears, because the man sitting across from me wasn't my son anymore. He was a hollow echo of him, a boy who now spoke with his wife's tongue, who looked at his parents not with love but with irritation, as though we were obstacles. Then, under the table, I saw it, Lily's hand squeezing his, not in comfort, but in triumph. And that was when I knew the war had begun. James's cruel words fell on our dinner table like a bomb, draining the color from Henry's face. My husband, who had never once raised his voice to his children in 45 years of marriage, trembled as he struck the table with his hand. "Enough, James," he roared. It was not anger that filled his voice. It was pain, the wounded cry of a lion defending the home built from his very soul. He said, "This house isn't just brick and stone. It's filled with your childhood, with every moment of your life, and you speak of it as if it were nothing." Lily, realizing this outburst might spoil her careful plan, slipped into her soft, syrupy tone.
Oh, Dad Henry, please don't misunderstand. James isn't angry. He just loves you both so much. He only wants you to live more comfortably. But my son, my own flesh and blood, didn't look at his father. He only turned to her, holding her hand tighter. You see, Lily, he said bitterly, we try to help and they act as if we're the villains. At that moment, all the ties that bound us began to unravel. Between my husband's stunned silence and my quiet sobs, I caught Lily's expression, calm, satisfied, victorious. That night, they packed their bags. With the excuse, we can't live under so much misunderstanding, they walked out the door. And as I watched them leave, I understood, with the kind of pain that burns through bone, that selling the house had never been her true goal. Lily wanted something far more cruel. She wanted to take my son from me completely.
The morning after my son and daughter-in-law left the house, an unbearable stillness settled over everything. A silence so heavy it seemed to suffocate not only Henry and me, but the very memories held within these walls. The empty armchair where James used to sit each evening seemed to echo with absence, filling me with a loneliness deeper than grief, the feeling of being exiled in my own home. Henry, my proud and steadfast husband, had turned to stone. He barely spoke, spending hours motionless in the garden chair, staring at nothing. He couldn't reconcile the idea that the son he had raised, the boy for whom he had sacrificed his life, had walked out of his father's home on the word of a stranger, dismissing his own blood as if it meant nothing. It was as though his heart had shattered into 1,000 pieces, and he no longer knew which piece to start mending. For days, I sat by the phone, clutching hope like a fragile flame. Perhaps he regrets it. Perhaps it was just anger. Perhaps he'll call. But my calls went unanswered. When the phone did ring, it was never him, only cold messages from Lily. James is very busy. He doesn't have time for long talks right now. Please stop upsetting him. It became painfully clear. My son's voice no longer belonged to him. My sweet daughter Emma sensed the change immediately. Mother, what's going on? Why isn't James answering my calls? Is everything all right at home? She asked, her voice trembling with worry. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth, that her brother had drifted away from us, that our family was quietly falling apart. How could I? How could a mother admit that her own child was slipping beyond reach? By then, I understood that this was no simple clash between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Lily's plan was far more deliberate. She wanted control, not just of our house, but of everything that connected James to his past, to us, to his sister, to his roots. Their departure had only been the first step in a cold and calculated design. Emma, heartbroken by her brother's silence and my trembling reassurances of, "We're fine, darling, don't worry," tried calling him again and again. When she still couldn't reach him, she finally received a message, not from her brother, but from Lily herself. "Emma, please stop pestering James. We're trying to build our own life, and we don't need your old-fashioned family interference. Respect our boundaries." When Emma read the message to me, crying, I realized the truth in full. Lily didn't just want to take our home, she wanted to sever every bond that might remind James who he really was. She was isolating him completely, making herself his only source of comfort and control, his puppeteer. A week passed in that frozen silence. Then, one morning, the phone rang, and my heart leapt when I saw his name. But the voice on the other end, It wasn't my son. It was hollow, mechanical, reciting lines written by someone else. "Mother, let's not drag this out. It's impossible for us to live together again. Please speak to Dad. It's time to sell the house." Henry and I stared at each other, speechless. Our son didn't ask how we were, didn't say he missed us or was sorry. He was simply delivering instructions, her instructions, about selling the house that had built his entire life. In that moment, I knew beyond all doubt the boy who had once run through this house laughing was gone, and in his place stood only the cold voice of his wife's ambition.
When the call ended, the voice that echoed in my ears was not my child's voice, but the cold, ravenous ambition that had taken him captive. Henry and I sat for minutes without a single word. Under the ticking of the mantel clock, it felt as if the weight of that betrayal had left us breathless. The long funeral silence was broken only when Henry rose with a tired creak from his chair. He walked slowly to the window with his back to me. Even from behind, I could see his shoulders slump, the way that last blow from our son had shaken the great oak within him and bent his spine. When he finally turned, there was not even a splinter of anger left on his face, only the deepest, coldest resolve I had ever seen. In a steady, unshaken voice, he said, "Margaret, our son, our James is gone. Our daughter-in-law has torn him from us. Now she wants our house, our property." Those merciless words from my husband cut through and confirmed every fear I'd been trying to smother for weeks. There was no point in crying or waiting for apologies now. There stood before us an enemy blinded by greed who would not hesitate to use our son as a weapon. Our beloved James was, in effect, a hostage. I went to Henry and took his icy hand in mine. I said no, but with a firmness that surprised even me. "We have not lost him. He is only under a spell for the moment. We won't let that snake poison him and take the house that's been in your family for generations. If they want us to sell, we'll play their game, but by our rules." That night, we locked our grief away and without sleeping a single minute, turned pain into purpose. We whispered plans to one another, how to build a shield against her greed, how to save our home and try to bring our son back. Grief became strategy. The next morning, my first call was to my dear Emma. Through tears, I explained step by step how James had been ensnared, how Lily was maneuvering to seize our home, and how we were going to answer her. I begged her not to cry and told her to be strong. I warned Emma not to try to contact James for the time being, and above all, to behave in a way that would not raise the slightest suspicion from Lily. The success of our plan would depend on appearing beaten and resigned, on letting Lily believe she had already won. That same day, Henry went to see a solicitor, a discreet, trustworthy man his old schoolmate's son recommended. With a father's humiliation, he explained everything. We didn't just want legal protection for our house. We wanted formal documentation proving how Lily's greed had pressured our son and how she was orchestrating the whole affair. Once the preparations were quietly in place and the solicitor gave us the nod that we were ready, that evening I played the hardest part of my life. My hands shaking, I rang James. As I had hoped, Lily answered straight away. With a proud, composed voice, I said, "Very well, my dear, you've won. We've changed our minds. We have decided to sell the house." There was a beat of stunned silence on the other end of the line after I said we were selling the house. The kind of silence that means they can't quite believe it. Then I heard Lily take a sharp breath, swallow, and the high little triumphant voice I'd come to dread. "Oh, Mom, I'm so thrilled I can't tell you," she cried, unable and unwilling to hide her victory. In the background, I could just make out James's confused, weak question. What did they say? What have they agreed to? But Lily drowned him out with a triumphant shout. "Did you hear that, James? Your parents have finally given in." Hearing yet again how little my son's will mattered, even to the sale of his childhood home, sliced my heart to pieces. Instead of suspecting my sudden acquiescence, Lily seized control, drunk on triumph. "Of course, Mother Margaret," she purred in that all-knowing false tone. "You're elderly. You won't know the market. Don't let anyone take advantage of you. I know a very reputable estate agent. I'll send him round first thing tomorrow, and he'll sort everything out." Holding Henry's hand to reassure him, I spoke in the weary, defeated voice we had rehearsed. "Right, my dear. Do as you think best. We don't understand these things. If you want the house, see to the sale. We'll just sign." With those words, we set the next stage of our trap in motion, handing responsibility and suspicion squarely into her lap. When the call ended, Henry and I looked at one another. We had done it. She'd taken the bait without a moment's doubt, promising to send the estate agent she trusted. But the small triumph was hollow. In its place lay the shame and sorrow of having to deceive our own child to save what was ours. The next morning dawned not with light, but with the heavy shadow of expectation, the false surrender and the treachery that would soon be at our door. We sat in silence, like mourners, and waited for the estate agent Lily had promised to appear. About midday, the bell rang. When we opened the door, the scene that met us showed just how brazenly my daughter-in-law celebrated her victory. Lily swept in, dragging a dazed-looking James behind her, while a man with a smug grin and a briefcase followed, the man she presented as the most honest professional on the market, though his demeanor suggested he was merely a pawn in her scheme. Disregarding our presence and any polite greeting, the man stood in the middle of the sitting room without even glancing at his paperwork and began to sneer. "Well, the place is falling apart, the walls smell damp, and those so-called antiques are worth nothing." His tone was deliberately insulting. While Henry and I felt treated like ghosts in our own home, Lily kept whispering into the agent's ear, coaching him. "Write that up. Say those cabinets are rotten. Mention the plumbing shot." Clearly instructing him how to drive the value down. It was obvious she wasn't trying to sell the house for a good price. She wanted it undervalued and dismissed. At that moment, Henry and I exchanged a look and saw the same terrible truth. Lily's plan wasn't to secure a high sale. By using this fake estate agent to denounce the property on paper, she would create a record showing the house was worthless. Then she could tell us, "There's no market, you can't sell it for anything," and maneuver the property into her hands for a pittance, or perhaps onto her own name. It was a filthy, premeditated plot to steal our home under cover of apparent reason.
when the lightning bolt of my daughter-in-law's filthy scheme, that shameless plot with her fake estate agent, struck my mind, I felt more than sorrow. I felt a loathing so deep it turned my stomach. They were trampling 45 years of our home and Henry's memories with nothing but greed. Still, when Henry squeezed my hand, I straightened and kept playing our part, the unsuspecting, gullible, elderly parents. The so-called expert finished his tour and came to stand before us. Without even glancing at his notes, with a tone as though he were doing us a favor, he sneered. "Well, Auntie, Uncle, if it weren't for Mrs. Lilly, I wouldn't bother. This dump would barely fetch anything once you factor in repairs. I could only offer you a pittance." The figure he named was laughable, not enough even for the pergola in our garden. His insulting sum was bitter proof of how cheaply Lily valued our memories and how little she thought of us. I had to squeeze Henry's arm under the table to stop him from bursting out in anger. Before he could protest, Lily cut in. "See, Mother Margaret, I told you, nobody pays for these old houses anymore. The poor man's only being reasonable. Don't let him slip away. Take it now, or you'll never get this sort of offer." I looked at Henry helplessly and mouthed, "What do we do?" He lowered his shoulders in the way we'd agreed and played our part. "Very well, dear, if you say so." At once, Lily's eyes sparkled with triumph. The plan was running like clockwork, and we were, heartbreakingly, handing over our home for next to nothing. Lily and that sham estate agent, drunk on our apparent surrender, pulled a sheaf of papers from his briefcase. "Let's speed things up. Sign here, sign there," they urged, trying to force the whole thing into a fait accompli, to make us sign away the life of our home in a single sitting. My heart was pounding. I pinched Henry's leg under the table to keep him from exploding. And then I deployed the most fragile, ignorant voice I could muster. "Oh, Lily," I said in the tiniest, most bewildered tone, "we're not able to read all these papers properly. Henry has a solicitor he knows. He said, 'Don't sign anything without me looking through it.' Could we not just show the documents to him, just in case? It's the age, you understand." The moment the word solicitor left my mouth, Lily's face froze for a heartbeat. You could see she feared our plan might be spoiled. But when she saw how helpless and elderly we pretended to be, she persuaded herself it was only a minor delay. With an eye roll, she muttered, "Oh, Mother, what a fuss! They're standard forms. Fine. If it'll make you feel better, come back tomorrow. But don't dawdle. If this buyer walks away, you won't see this money again." As that sordid bargaining and those degrading words flew around our living room, my brave boy, my lion James, rose from his chair wordlessly and stood by the window staring at the trees outside as if none of it belonged to him. His indifference to his wife's theft and to the state his parents were reduced to was the sharpest knife in my heart. Then, with one final instruction, "Get the solicitor sorted by midday tomorrow. I'll book the registry appointment for this evening. Don't delay." Lily dragged James by the arm and stormed out with that fraudulent estate agent. They left as if triumphant. Henry and I were left standing in the doorway, not with forged papers, but with the real trap our solicitor had prepared. The game had truly begun.
The moment my daughter-in-law's dirty scheme, that shameless plot with her fake estate agent and his little band of pawns flashed across my mind, sorrow turned into a cold, hard disgust at the thought of 45 years of our life and Henry's memories being trampled for greed. Henry squeezed my hand and I straightened up. We kept up the performance, the gullible, confused elderly parents, because the trap had worked. They'd taken the bait. Without wasting a second, Henry rang the discreet solicitor we'd consulted and said, "We're putting the plan into motion. We've got the forged sale papers she's prepared. Now we're coming to your office with the real documents you drafted so we can secure the signatures that prove her betrayal." When we sat at our solicitor's desk, there were, quite literally, two truths before us. On one side, the fake documents Lily had commissioned, the humiliating paper that valued our home at next to nothing, and on the other, the real legal paperwork our solicitor had prepared, including a proper power of attorney that would redirect control of the house and the sale proceeds away from our son James and straight to our daughter Emma. The solicitor calmly explained the plan's most crucial moment. Tomorrow, at the registry, at the exact second Lily thought she'd won, how we would quietly substitute the forgeries with the real power of attorney so that instead of handing her the keys and the proceeds, we would guarantee our family's future. As I listened and nodded, my eye caught the small childhood photo of James that Henry had taken from his wallet and laid on the table, his smiling little face. The trap we were setting would not only expose a greedy daughter-in-law, it would brand my son on paper as the man who'd sold his family for his wife's ambition. That thought cut me more deeply than any insult. It was the bitterest victory a mother could win. The next day, in the cold, crowded corridors of the land registry, and while waiting to sign what felt like the most humiliating document of our lives, my stomach sank. We were about to formalize, on paper, our own child's betrayal, recording him as someone who'd abandoned his family for money. Soon, Lily arrived, looking triumphant, with James trailing like a puppet and the fake estate agent in tow. She hustled us along with a forced eagerness. "Come on, Mum, Dad, don't keep the clerks waiting. Get this done." Her hurry betraying the greed behind it. In the cramped signing room, Lily shoved the bogus papers toward the official without a second's hesitation and announced that everything was ready. "They'll just sign. Let's get it finished." Henry and I exchanged a look. This was the final stage. He took the pen, pretending his hand trembled with confusion, and recited the line our solicitor had coached him to say the night before. "Oh my, we don't quite understand where to sign. These papers are very confusing," deliberately distracting the official. As Lily barked instructions at him, "No, Father, sign here," and the official's attention fell on her, I moved. Swiftly from my bag, I slid across the real power of attorney our solicitor had prepared, the document that transferred authority over all assets and the proceeds to my daughter Emma, placing it quietly on top of the forgery Lily had pushed forward. In that instant, the paper that was about to be signed was no longer the record of my son's betrayal, but the instrument of my justice.
The moment my daughter-in-law and her little band swept out of the house, drunk on their victory, Henry and I looked at one another, and there was no pain or helplessness on our faces anymore. Only the ice-cold resolve needed to bring down the final curtain on this filthy game. The trap had worked.
They had swallowed the bait. Henry didn't waste a second. He rang the discreet solicitor we'd already briefed and said, "We're putting the plan into motion. We have the forged sale papers she prepared. Now we're coming to your office with the real documents you drew up so we can secure the signatures that will prove her betrayal." When we sat at the solicitor's desk, two truths lay before us. On one side, the humiliating fake contract Lily had commissioned that valued our home at a joke. On the other, the real legal paperwork our solicitor had prepared, including a proper power of attorney that would transfer control of the house and any sale proceeds away from our son James and directly to our daughter Emma. Our solicitor calmly walked us through the clinch-in move. Tomorrow, at the registry, at that exact second when Lily thinks she has won, we will quietly substitute the forged papers with the genuine power of attorney. In that heartbeat, the record will secure our family's future instead of legitimizing her scheme. As I nodded at every measured word, my eye fell on the little photograph of James Henry had taken from his wallet. A smiling boy's face on the table edge. My chest ached. The trap we were setting would not only expose a greedy daughter-in-law, it would brand our son, on paper, as the man who abandoned his family for his wife's ambition. It was a bitter, bitter victory, the cruelest a mother could win. At the registry the next day, in that cold, crowded corridor while we waited to sign what felt like the most shameful document of our lives, my heart thudded as if it might fall to the floor. We were about to formalize our child's betrayal. Lily arrived with James trailing behind, eyes glazed, and the fake agent in tow, triumphant and brisk. "Come on then, Mum, Dad, let's not keep the clerks waiting," she chattered, her hurry thinly veiling her greed. In the cramped signing room, she shoved the bogus papers at the official and proclaimed everything ready. Henry and I exchanged the look we had practiced. He took the pen, feigning confusion, and repeated the line our solicitor had coached him to say to distract the clerk. "Oh dear, where should we sign? These forms are rather puzzling." As Lily snapped at him, "No, Father, here!" and the official's attention flicked to her. I moved quicker than I thought I could. From my bag, I slid across the real power of attorney our solicitor had prepared, the document assigning authority over all assets and sale proceeds to Emma, and quietly placed it on top of the fake she'd pushed forward. The paper about to be signed was no longer the record of my son's betrayal, but the instrument of my justice. Henry understood the move at once. He steadied the pen he pretended trembled with, and with the heaviest, most determined hand of his life, signed that real document. His signature was his last fortress, the final safeguard to protect the home he'd built over 45 years. When the official slid the completed form toward me, I wrote my name with hands that shook, without reading the document, trying to convince myself that the signature I added was not a concession to my son, but a saving act for his future. All the while, Lily stood nearby, the triumphant grin plastered on her face as she took the meaningless scrap she'd been handed and clutched it like a prize, dragging James out to celebrate. She had no idea that what she thought she'd won was in fact the beginning of her own undoing. Stepping out of the registry into the noisy street, neither of us managed a victory cry. The triumph we'd engineered was so tainted, so painful, that it felt like we'd borne witness to the funeral of our son's last loyalty rather than the saving of our home. Even the solicitor's distant nod of "it's done" did nothing to ease the hollow ache. On the walk home, neither of us could find words.
My hand instinctively clutched the power of attorney in my bag as if it were not a legal paper, but the battered shield that would protect our family's fractured honor. As soon as we were in, I rang Emma with trembling fingers. "My dear, it's done," I said, unable to stop my voice from shaking. It was not a proclamation of triumph, but a bitter admission. Your brother will no longer have any legal claim to this house. All authority is with you. We saved our home, but we have lost our son." Hearing her cry on the line, and then, with the steady, mature strength that comforted us, Emma replied, "Don't worry, Mum. You did the right thing. I'll protect both your future and his, however it turns out." Her words both comforted and deepened our sorrow. Henry sat in James' empty armchair that evening, head in his hands, mourning the loss of the son he'd raised. Our plan's hardest phase had begun, the waiting. While Lily celebrated with her worthless paper, we would quietly arrange a proper sale to a genuine buyer and ensure the proceeds were transferred to Emma's management. And I, pretending to believe Lily had sold the house, would wait for that moment she reached for the money and for that final slip of her mask to fall.
The days after that shameful day at the registry passed in a strange, frozen hush. A tense waiting that hung over the house for both us and the daughter-in-law celebrating her victory. While we sat quietly nursing the hurt of betrayal and hoping our plan would play out, Lily sat impatiently waiting for the worthless papers in her hand to turn into real money. Before long, my phone lit up with Lily's name. When I answered, there was none of the faux polite, "How are you, dear?" I'd grown used to. Instead, she hissed, greedy and sharp, "Well, Nerman, what happened with the money from the registry? Why is nothing showing in the account yet?" Under Henry's warning squeeze of the hand, I put on the most innocent, out-of-the-loop tone I could muster. "Oh, love, what do we know about banks?" I said. "You said your man would handle it. We've been waiting here with Henry. Hasn't the money come through?" There was a brief pause on the line. I could hear her fury rising at not getting the reaction she expected. "Goodness me, he should have wired it. I'll ring him now," she snapped and slammed the phone down without waiting for an explanation. While Lily flailed in her invented world with her fake buyer, we took comfort in the quiet knowledge that our daughter Emma, through our solicitor, had been quietly working with a proper, honest purchaser, people who truly valued the house, and that the real sale process to fetch the home's true worth had been started in secret. The few days that followed felt like the calm before a storm. Henry and I waited, holding our breath for the trap to snap shut, wondering how Lily, blinded by greed, would react when her fraud collapsed. We were ready for whatever frantic, desperate move she might make. Then, on the very evening we had finished showing the house to the genuine buyers, Lily rang again, this time furious and frantic. "Nerman, because of you, we've lost the buyer. He won't pick up the phone. What have you done? Did you sell it to someone else, or what?" she shrieked. I took Henry's calming hand and kept up the performance of cluelessness. "Darling, why are you shouting? What could we have done?" I said. "Your honest man was supposed to sort this. We signed at the registry. Why hasn't he wired the money? We're waiting for you." Her voice broke as she screamed, "You're all tricking me! It's a plot!" and slammed the phone in my face. In that moment, I knew with dreadful clarity that the snake who'd realized she'd been trapped, penniless and exposed, would come back to this house to pour the last of her venom. She'd return, even more dangerous, to try and claw back whatever she could.
The scream down the line was the cry of a scheme collapsing under its own greed. When Henry and I looked at each other, there was no more pretense of polite helplessness to keep up. The mask had fallen, and we knew that the angel-faced monster would soon be standing at our door. I phoned my dear Emma at once, breathless. "Darling, the snake has woken. She realizes she's been trapped." She screamed and hung up. "Whatever we're doing, finish it now. Get the signatures from those real buyers today." I begged her to legally secure the house before the storm hit. The hours that followed were the longest, tensest of my life. Every passing car, every creak in the door made Henry and me hold our breath. Our 45-year home felt like the quiet front line of a battle about to begin. As dusk fell, a sudden screech of brakes and a slammed car door sounded down the street. Not the noise of a civil visit, but the arrival of an invader, a thief who'd lost her loot. The doorbell began to ring hysterically, like a fire alarm. Before Henry and I could even move, Lily's shrill, crazed voice blared through the letterbox. "Open the door! Margaret, you liar! I know what you've done! Open up!" A hate-filled cry that shook the whole neighborhood. Her fists against the door weren't only battering the steel. Every blow seemed to shake the walls of our life, the trove of memories inside them, and even the last bastion of Henry's patience. The voice at the other side was no longer the sweep Mum I'd welcomed. It was the hiss of a snake who'd realized she'd been trapped and intended to spit her venom. I took a step back in fear. Henry straightened, his shoulders set with the cold resolve of a proud man whose honor had been wounded. "Margaret," he said, before turning to me, "we let this creature come into our home. Now it's time to tear that mask off her face." When Henry unlatched the door, the figure before us was not the daughter-in-law I'd called my girl, but a stranger, wild with greed, breathless, her face twisted by fury, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot. She had come not to celebrate, but to demand account. What broke me even more was the shadow standing right behind her. Our son James, who'd come to his parents' house like a culprit, unable to meet our eyes. He wouldn't raise his head. He stood a puppet, unable to utter a rebuke or stop his wife's ugly assault. A man robbed of his will. Lily shoved past Henry and me as though it were her own living room, hurled her bag to the floor, and screamed at the top of her lungs, "Where's the money? Who do you think you are? I know about your registry trick. You fooled me. You sold the house to someone else. Give me that money now."
As my daughter-in-law screamed, "Where's the money?" in the very heart of our 45-year home, I saw the ice-cold, steely look take hold of my husband Henry's face. The grieving, broken man who had been mourning our son's betrayal was gone. In his place stood a fortress of a man, not raging, but filled with a disgust so fierce it made him immovable. Henry didn't spare Lily a glance. He fixed his eyes on the ghost in the darkest corner of the room, our son James, whose will had been stolen, and in a voice sharper than a whisper said, "James, lift your eyes and look at your mother. You let this monster into our home. Now you listen to her cry for money without shame." Lily went wild at being ignored. She stepped toward me, jabbing an accusing finger in my face, and spat, "Stop this pathetic father and son drama.
You can't fool me. You signed those worthless registry papers. The house is sold. Either you hand over the money now, or I'll make sure you never live here another minute." I walked to Henry, took from my bag the real power of attorney we'd signed at the registry, the document that granted all authority to our daughter Emma, and with a voice as cold as steel, asked, "Which money are you talking about, my dear? The fake papers you think you made us sign? This is the document we signed, and neither you nor your persuaded husband is named on it." When Lily's eyes locked on the paper in my hand, on the word power of attorney and Emma's name, the furious hatred on her face changed. First astonishment, then the wild, frantic panic of a trapped animal replaced the predatory fury. Her beautiful angel mask lay in tatters. Confronted with a resolute mother holding the trap she herself had sprung, Lily's angry crimson face went chalk white. She stammered, What does this mean? What power of attorney? You tricked me." I gave perhaps the cruelest smile of my life and said, "No, my dear, we did not trick you. We protected our home from your insatiable greed. While you relied on our supposed ignorance, we relied on yours. And with this document, we made our daughter Emma the sole authorized person for this house and all our assets." Crushed by the truth, Lily screamed, "No! That's my money!" and lunged at me. Henry stepped forward like a rock. Seeing no support, Lily turned to the shadow behind her, to James, and cried, "James, can't you see? They've cheated me. They've given your rights to your sister. Do something. Make them stop." It was as if something woke in James. For the first time in weeks, he slowly lifted his head. His eyes flicked from the paper in my hand to his wife's hatred-distorted face, then to his parents, tired but unbowed. And in that instant, I think he realized precisely what monster had its claws in him and what he had been made to do. Denied the backing she'd expected, losing both the money and the puppet she had fashioned, Lily went utterly mad. "If I can't have the money in the house, then neither of you shall," she shrieked, seized the antique vase that had been my mother's heirloom from the corner of the room, and hurled it to the floor. It shattered into 100 glittering pieces.
The vase my daughter-in-law hurled to the floor was my late mother's last keepsake. When those ceramic fragments scattered across the marble, it wasn't just an object that broke. It was the last scrap of hope I'd held for this marriage and the final drop of patience. She was no longer merely an ambitious daughter-in-law. She had become a vandal, attacking my home and my memories with blind fury. Gasping with a perverse delight at having shattered my past, her gaze flicked to the sideboard where Henry's grandfather's antique pocket watch stood. "If that's the case," she hissed, "I'll leave you nothing whole in this house. That watch is mine too. I'll take it." Henry, a man who had never once raised his voice at an item in our home, sprang forward like a lion when she moved toward that sacred heirloom. He roared, "Enough!" His voice wasn't fueled by mere anger, by an immovable resolve, a man stopping a sacrilege being committed against what he loved. In that instant, the sound of my shattered vase and my husband's anguished roar broke whatever spell had held James for weeks. He finally saw his wife's violence for what it was, and for the first time in a long while, the blankness in his eyes changed to something awful and clear: shame. realization and horror. As Lily reached for the sideboard again, James, perhaps for the first time in his life, resisted. He caught her arm midair and, voice trembling, whispered, "Lily, stop! Enough! What are you doing? This is my mother's home." Stung by her husband's defiance at the very moment her plan should have come to fruition, Lily recoiled as if betrayed, screaming, "Because of your mother and your family, I've lost everything. Who are you to interfere?" She tore free from his grip in fury. But James's gaze didn't flinch. He looked at the broken fragments of my mother's vase, at his father standing exhausted yet unbowed, and at the wreckage his wife had caused. The weight of everything he had done settled visibly on his face. Realizing the puppet's strings had snapped and that she'd lost both the money and the man she'd made into a puppet, Lily's last hope evaporated. In a final, furious act, she spat, "I will ruin you both. This house will be your grave. I'll make you suffer, and I won't let that money go to Nisa." Her threats, the last flailing attempts of a defeated woman, no longer pierced me. All my attention was on my son. I watched him shrink with shame, shake his head as if to say, "What have I done?" Seeing no support from James, Lily gathered herself, looked at him one last time, realized there was nothing left for her here, and stormed out, slamming the door with a force that shook the whole house as she left.
The sound of the slammed door lingered in the air, echoing through the walls of our living room long after she'd gone, until it faded into a silence heavier than any of her screams. A silence thick with shame, not only for the hatred she'd poured out, but for the ruin she had left behind. In that silence lay not just the pain of my mother's shattered vase, but the broken honor of my son. Henry stood still, not looking toward the door where the monster had vanished, but at the man our son had become, standing hollow and alone in the middle of the wreckage his wife had created. The fury and strength that had carried Henry until then drained away. His shoulders sagged under the quiet paternal grief of a man forced to witness the ruin of the child he had devoted his life to. In my hand, I still clutched the power of attorney that gave our daughter Emma control over everything. Legally, we had won. We had saved our home. But as I looked at the fragments of the vase scattered across the marble and at my son's empty, lost eyes, I realized this was no victory. It was not a mother redeeming her child. It was a mother watching him drown in the wreckage of his own doing. James sank to his knees, slowly, as though the last strings holding him upright had snapped. He fell among the sharp shards of the broken vase, trembling, reaching out to touch a piece, but pulling his hand back before he could. Then, in the midst of that terrible stillness, his shoulders began to shake. His head dropped to his chest, and I heard the sound I had longed for, but never wanted to hear this way.
"Mother," he choked, the word breaking from his throat like a sob buried in shame. It was the sound of awakening, of remorse, the sound of someone who finally understood that he had lost everything. That broken, muffled mother rising from the floor, from the ruins of my mother's vase, was not the first or last cry of a child I would ever hear, but it was the cry of a son crushed beneath his own betrayal. The moment I understood that the monster behind that angel's mask had not only deceived my son, she had awakened the darkness within him too. Henry, the rock who had stood firm through it all, didn't take a single step toward his fallen son. He just watched the trembling of his shoulders, listened to the ragged sobs, and then turned his gaze to the old pocket watch on the mantel, not looking at it as an heirloom saved, but as a reminder of the son he'd lost. Without a word, he walked to the door and opened it wide. It was not an invitation, it was an exile, a silent father's way of saying, "There is no place for you here, not yet." James saw the open door and his sobs grew harsher. "Father, Mother, I was blind. I believed her words, her promises. I tried to sell my home, your love for money. What have I done?" And with that, he bent down, clutching his face in his hands amid the shards of the broken vase. That night, our son did not follow his wife. He followed his shame. He walked out quietly through the door his father had opened, not in anger, but in defeat. We later heard he had divorced the woman, tried to rebuild what remained of his life, but he was never the same with us again. Our daughter Emma, with the authority we had given her, sold the house and bought us a smaller one, peaceful, bright, untouched by those bitter memories. But no new wall could mend the deep fracture that had split our family that night. Yes, the angel's mask finally fell, justice was done, and our home was saved. But this is not a story of triumph. It is the story of how a mother and father were forced to watch their child's eyes blinded by greed, how a family can be torn apart by the betrayal of the one they trusted most. Because when the mask falls, the monstrous face beneath it is not always that of a stranger. Sometimes it belongs to the one you love most.